plane was gliding smoothly over Kazakhstan, just another ordinary flight. Passengers were relaxed, some napping, others flipping through magazines or chatting quietly. Then came a turbulence. Not just turbulence, this was different. The cabin lights flickered, and there was a loud metallic glow that froze everyone in their seats. Within seconds, panic took over. The plane wasn't flying straight anymore. It was jerking, wobbling, like something had gone horribly wrong. People started grabbing at their seatbelts, some even yelling for help. And then everything outside turned into a blur as the ground rushed up faster than anyone could have imagined. Barely 2 days later, halfway across the world, another disaster unfolded. This time, a flight out of South Korea was nearing the airport for landing. But instead of touching down safely, it struck something mid-air. A sharp impact sent shockwaves through the cabin, and the landing gear failed. What was supposed to be a routine touchdown turned into chaos as the plane slammed onto the runway, skidded off course, and burst into flames. 2 crashes, days apart, in 2 completely different parts of the world. But the stories of those on board share one thing: survival wasn't guaranteed. What happened in those final moments? And how did anyone make it out alive? Let's start with Azerbaijan Airlines. Flight 8243, which was scheduled from Baku, Azerbaijan to Kadyrov Grozny International Airport near Grozny, Russia, on December 25th, 2024. Well, it was December. You could already guess the weather conditions. Extreme fog, low sight. But the winter is not the main thing. Christmas is. People were traveling to celebrate this holiday with their loved ones. But who knew what was waiting for them? Who knew that those who were waiting for them at the airport will be left for the wait forever? So how did everything started? Well, everything was going smoothly until the GPS turned off. Now what? GPS of a plane? That's one in a 1 million time thing. But what could be the backstory? Like, how could it happen? Well, initially, everything was smooth. The flight was normal, like every other. The passengers boarded and the plane took off. Everything was okay until approximately 40 minutes later, the plane entered Russian territory. And it was a bit questioning when the GPS system of the plane turned off, and the fog, well, it made the situation worse. 81 minutes into the flight, and a huge thud sound was heard. And not just one, but 2. And you won't believe what happened next. A man started bleeding like somehow his arm got injured. Flight attendants tried to calm everyone, but their voices were drowned out by the growing noise. The plane was no longer flying straight. It was lurching and wobbling, the nose tilting downward. Panic set in. Passengers screamed. Some prayed, and others clung to their seats in terror. The descent was rapid and terrifying. The ground below came into view, but through the thick fog, no one could make sense of what they were seeing. The aircraft plummeted toward the frozen terrain of western Kazakhstan. And then, a massive crash. Boom! The front of the plane, completely destroyed. It's gone. But the back, that's where the survivors were. Those in the back, they made it out. Some by sheer luck, others because of where the plane hit the ground. The survivors who were in the rear didn't experience the full force of the crash. They lived because of the way the plane hit. They lived because they happened to be in the right place at the right time. But that doesn't mean it was easy, not by a long shot. Now, there's this guy on the plane, Subhonkal Rakhimov. He's sitting there, clutching his seat, knowing this might be it. What does he do? He pulls out his phone. Not to text or call for help. There's no time for that. He starts recording. You can hear his voice in the video. It's shaky, full of fear. He's praying, not just for himself, but for everyone on the plane. Can you even imagine? He's sitting there, watching his life flash before his eyes, and he has the clarity to hit record. Seconds later, the plane crashes. And when I say crashes, I mean it slams into the ground with this deafening force. The front of the plane? Gone. Just obliterated. But the back? That's where the survivors were. But the story doesn't end there. 2 days later, another disaster struck. This time, it was a flight out of South Korea, Jeju Air Flight 2216, scheduled for landing at Muan International Airport. Everything seemed routine as the plane approached for landing. But then, suddenly, something unexpected happened. A drone slammed into the plane, hitting the engines mid-air. The aircraft lost power and the landing gear failed. What was supposed to be a simple touchdown turned into utter chaos. The plane descended in a terrifying dive, the runway now a dangerous target. Instead of touching down safely, the aircraft crashed hard onto the runway, skidded off course, and burst into flames. Fire spread through the cabin with shocking speed. Panic erupted inside the aircraft. There was confusion, terror, and helplessness. The fire was too fast to contain. The crash was too violent to survive for most. And yet, once again, the rear of the plane became a strange point of safety. Out of 181 people on board, only 2 survived. Both of them were flight attendants who were seated in the back. The rest of the passengers were trapped in the burning wreckage, unable to escape. Nobody opened the emergency exits. The flames and smoke were too intense to allow anyone to get out. Ji-yeon and Min-jae, the 2 flight attendants, did what they could. Despite being injured, they managed to get themselves out of the burning wreckage. They fought their way through the thick smoke and flames, stumbling as they pushed on. The fire and heat were unbearable, but they made it. And it wasn't by opening emergency exits or anything dramatic. It was by sheer will and determination to survive. But the rest of the passengers were not so lucky. The crash had been brutal, and the fire spread too fast. As emergency crews rushed to the scene, it was clear that anyone who had been seated toward the front had not survived. The 2 flight attendants were the only survivors, and they were left with nothing but the weight of the tragedy they had witnessed. These 2 stories, separated by days and thousands of miles, are a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of aviation. What are the odds that the people seated in the back of the plane were the ones to survive both crashes? In both cases, the rear of the aircraft acted as an unintended safety zone. Subhonkal Rakimov, with his last moments of clarity, and the flight attendants from Jeju Air who fought their way through the flames became symbols of survival. But their stories also serve as a reminder of the fragility of life. Survival isn't guaranteed, and in the end, it may come down to luck, being in the right place at the right time. In both crashes, many passengers didn't make it out, but for those who did, their stories are a testament to the incredible strength of the human spirit, even in the face of disaster. What do you think you would have done in this situation? Would you have lost all hope, or would you have fought until the end?